So you might be looking at this and thinking, a children's book about a beaver? What's that got to do with, well, the way the world works? Turns out a lot more than you'd think. Today, we're diving into Carney the Beaver, a story that's not just a cute tale for kids, but a surprisingly sharp take on international politics. Believe it or not, this little story was actually inspired by a big deal speech at the World Economic Forum. And it's pretty clever because it's written to work on two levels, as a simple story for children and as a piece of pointed political satire for adults. It's a really fascinating way to get your head around a huge, complicated topic. So that's really the big question we're looking at today, isn't it? How on earth do you explain something as huge and complex as the breakdown of the world order, but with a story about forest animals? Well, you use a fable about a forest, a bully, and one very determined beaver.
All right, let's dive in. The story kicks off in a place that probably feels pretty familiar, a time of peace where everything was orderly and it all just worked.
So, picture this. Once upon a time, all the animals in a forest lived by this big book of rules. And this wasn't just some boring old rule book. No, this was the bedrock of their whole community. It was this shared agreement that made sure everyone, from the tiniest mouse to the biggest bear, could get along fairly and peacefully. But you know how stories go. That peace, it wasn't going to last. Every good story needs a little bit of trouble. And for this forest, trouble is about to come roaring in. And here it is, the moment everything changes. The lion, who's one of the biggest and most powerful animals around, just flat out decides the rules are for other animals, not for him. He's literally standing on top of the rule book. And that one move, that's the first big crack in the foundation of their entire world. Oh, and it definitely doesn't stop there. The lion isn't just breaking the rules for himself. Nope, he starts actively bullying everyone else. He starts throwing his weight around, making threats, and basically swapping out that nice, stable forest life for one filled with fear. And this is where the story gets, well, really on the nose. The lion's threats aren't just about showing off his claws. They're economic. He starts talking about these things called tariff taxes. And yeah, that probably sounds pretty familiar to you. So what's a tariff exactly? Let's just break that down real quick. Basically, it's a tax on stuff you bring in from another country. In the story, it's the lion's big stick for punishing anyone who dares to disagree with him. A pretty clear parallel to how things can go down in the real world, right? So what does everyone else do when faced with this big bully? Well, mostly they get scared. And this picture just says it all, doesn't it? They just pretend everything's fine. They hold up these sad little signs saying the lion is fair, even though they know it's not true. It's pure appeasement, and it's all driven by fear.
But not everyone is willing to just play along, and this is where our hero, Carney the Beaver, steps onto the scene.
See, Carney sees what everyone else is trying so hard to ignore. He sees that crack in their world for what it is, the pleasant fiction they've all been living in. It's over. It's completely broken. Ruptured. And that word rupture is so important here. It's not just a small disagreement or a little problem. It's a total break. Think about it like a friendship that just snaps after a massive argument. That's what's happened to the trust that held their whole community together. It's gone. And this, right here, this is the turning point. Carney does something incredibly brave. He just says the truth out loud. No fancy words, no complicated arguments. Just the simple, honest truth. The lion is being a bully. And that honesty, that becomes the very first act of resistance. And, words are one thing, but then comes the action. Carney takes that "the lion is fair" sign, and he throws it away. It's such a powerful moment, right? It's him publicly saying, I'm done with the lie. He's just done pretending. But what he does next is maybe even more important. He doesn't just stand there alone. He goes and stands with the animals who are being targeted, like the polar bear. By showing that kind of solidarity, he's not just defying the lion. He's starting to build something new to replace what was broken. He's building a coalition based on friendship and support. And that leads us into the final part of the story, which is honestly the most hopeful part. Because it's not just about standing up to a bully. It's about what you build in its place. Carney has this big realization. Just reacting to the lion all the time, that's not a real plan. The only way forward is to be proactive. So he shifts his focus.
He stops worrying about what the lion is doing and starts thinking about how he can build up his own strength and the strength of his friends.
So what does he do? He goes and finds new friends, other animals who also believe in fairness and working together. And this is so key. It's not about trying to patch up the old, broken system. It's about forging brand new alliances, creating a whole new network based on shared values. And I love this part because it shows just how clever they get. They start creating their own ways to cooperate, like these buyers' clubs for snacks. I mean, think about it. It's their version of new trade agreements. They're basically building their own little economy on the side, proving they don't need the lion's unfair system to get by.
And their new strength isn't just about snacks and trading. It's diplomatic, too. Instead of getting into a big fight, which is what the lion probably wants, they choose to have focused talks under a big banner of fairness. They're literally setting up their own negotiating tables, showing the whole forest that real power comes from working together, not from just being the biggest and loudest.
You know what's really powerful about this story is that it doesn't give you a simple, happily ever after ending. It's honest. The world they live in now is harsher, for sure. That old illusion of perfect safety is gone. But what they have instead is something way more valuable: honesty. And it's on that new, solid ground of honesty that they actually start to build something better. You see it in this last picture. They're literally building a new playground, a new world, side by side. It's not being built by one powerful boss anymore. It's being built by everyone, together. So the story leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on, right? When the old rules just don't work anymore, when they completely break down, what does it really take to build new ones? And the story seems to suggest the answer isn't about finding a new king of the forest. It's about honesty, it's about sticking together, and it's about the hard, messy, but necessary work of building something truer, from the ground up.